Now, let's talk about the running back situation here. The running backs are, listen, last year's running back game was awesome. No doubt about it. Jonah Coleman, Michael Wiley, DJ Williams. I'm going to go on record right now and say I don't think you're going to see much of a drop-off, if any. I like Jacory Croskey-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, he goes by. Love that. Big Bill, whatever. Then you got Quali, Conley. You've got, obviously, Fam, Rayshon, Speedy, Luke. You got Kedra Crisano as well getting into the mix. So there is an abundance of running backs on this squad.
There is, but even with that being said, Jacory is a separator as well. Like, I do think that there's a little bit of a drop from 1 to 2 in my opinion. I think, again, his physical abilities, his lateral quickness. He's not the biggest guy either, but you could tell once the pads are on. Like, listen, there's dudes that are small that can take a hit and also lay you out. And then there's dudes that are small that as soon as you touch them, they fly across the field. And Jacory is definitely the former. He is a strong, built kid. Physical stature. You when you're looking at Jonah Coleman, he's not going to be like that. Right. But he's got a nice little bounce to him. He's got nice moves. He's just real fluid. I would say fluid is the best way to put it. And even coming out of the backfield, his catching ability was on display as well. I just have been very, very impressed by him.
When he signed, a coach on the staff told me, he said this kid will be in the NFL in a year. He said, I don't know in what capacity. He said, but he's going to be in the NFL in a year. And this is a guy that generally doesn't just say things like that. And I said, what are you talking about, a 4th round? He said, I'm not going to give it any specifics. He said he's going to be in the NFL. He said he looks different than the other backs on the roster. Saul, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. He just looks a little bit different. And keep in mind, too, talking about a guy like a Quali Conley, the dude's rushed for 2,000 yards the last 2 years at San Jose State, almost 7 yards a pop. Other guys, it's not an indictment of these other running backs. It's just that Bill, it's going to take me a while to get used to that. Bill looks a little bit different. That's all.
I would say this too, in defense of everybody else that maybe I'm not naming in terms of being like a stellar player or athlete, is when you get into the games, sometimes things change. Yep. And it's just like in NFL training camp, they always say that putting on the pads is a separator. That's where you really see who's about what. And I think when we get into these games, that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well.
Dare I say standing on business, Saul Bookman? I was going to say, get a little bit of street cred in here with the Inner Circle hat and everything going on. But I had also, now let's talk about the linemen. You got to see the linemen up close. Jonah Savanea, the man at 6'3", 330 pounds that has about a 27-inch waist. Saul, that is a different looking lineman than about anybody else out there.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he's big and not like, I feel like this new age of offensive linemen is not like overweight, right? Yeah. They're in shape, they're built, they're big, and Jonah obviously leads the crowd. Deuced as well. Like he's a big boy as well. 6'4", 230, I think, or I'm sorry, 330.
More than 230, yes.
Just a huge mountain of a man. Like, and when you're looking at the offensive line depth, which I know we're going to talk about, like there's some concerns. There's some concerns there in terms of like who's going to go where, and but I think in terms of size and girth, they're going to be all right. It's just technique wise, which they were going over multiple times the other day when we were watching them. That, and offensive line coach was very good about pointing out the flaws and making sure that they kept repeating themselves to fix those flaws and those technique inaccuracies.
And now, if there's a bigger offensive line coach in the country than Josh Oglesby, I'd like to see it. That is talk about a mountain of a man. Orlando Pace is now the offensive line coach at the U of A.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yes. Now, you make a great point about, listen, I think with the starting line, I'm cool with the starting line. The depth obviously is a little bit of a concern, so you obviously got to keep that there. Rhino is, Andy Bryant says, what's a deal with left tackle? They're going to go with Rhino at left tackle. Yeah. He's a year removed from, a redshirt year, obviously. But here's what at least gives me some solace in this, is that you got an NFL first-round pick in Jonah Savanea that they're going to keep at right tackle. So they're obviously seeing things up close that they feel very comfortable with at that left tackle, their spot, Saul.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that that's going to be a work in progress at the beginning of the season, but I do feel like they feel comfortable with him over at left tackle. And obviously, like one of our biggest fears was, the depth, like how far down this depth chart can U of A possibly go and not lose too much? With Leif Magnuson now, missing practice of late, that gives everybody else an opportunity. And that's the way I would look at it, So when we're looking at a Deuce, he might have an opportunity to get in there and really prove himself and get up there. And then Capra, obviously the transfer from Nevada, playing 2 years. I think he had something like 224 snaps and only gave up 2 sacks the entire time. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And so they've gotten some guys in here that can potentially fill those voids due to injury, but you don't want to see anybody get injured in the preseason for sure.
Dare I say, if Deuce gets in the game and gets downhill, it's going to be a Deuce boost. That's what we're going to run with around here.
Sometimes they're gonna pull the guard, and maybe you're gonna have what's his name? Oh my gosh, Jacory run around a sweep, right? And then you're just dropping the Deuce.
There's a lot to dropping the Deuce. I like that.
There we go, baby.
Okay, man, Saul in mid-season form already, man. Saul is going into the fourth quarter right now, fully warmed. He's got all of the reps going, and he's basically just ready to rock and roll. We like seeing that.